There's a moment in every courtroom thriller. The dramatic reveal, the gasp, the line delivered with absolute confidence. You can't try me again. Double Jeopardy. I could just see me doing that. Toss my hair. Hollywood treats it like a magic shield, a loophole, a get-out-of-jail-free card for anyone clever enough to exploit it. But the law, it's not like the movies. It's messier, it's narrower, and it's far less protective than people think. Today, we're pulling apart the myths, the ones that shape public perception, and in some cases, jury expectations. Maybe even the way people talk about justice online. Because when pop culture gets the law wrong, it doesn't make for bad legal drama. It changes what people believe is possible in the real world.
Hey, coworkers.
Welcome to Coworkers in Crime, the podcast where office chatter meets crime discussion.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Krystal.
Yes, we really do work together.
And yes, we're totally obsessed with true crime.
From water cooler whispers to cold case deep dives,
we're here to bring you stories that keep us chatting way past our coffee breaks.
So grab your coffee,
lock your desk drawer, and let's get into this week's case.
Today we're going to do a myth-busting episode, kind of different than our other bonus episodes. But this goes along with our deep dive on Double Jeopardy.
Mythbuster, you're right. This one, Hollywood has absolutely mangled it. To my surprise, when you mentioned it in part one of this, I was like, was the movie wrong? And you're absolutely right. Movies, TV, thrillers, they've convinced us that Double Jeopardy is like this cheat code, like this up, down, A, B, A, B. Like, I really thought that was real.
So today we're going to break down the biggest myths using real Supreme Court cases to show what the law actually says and why the Hollywood version falls apart the second you look at the doctrine.
All right, so let's go into myth one. If I'm acquitted, I can confess and nothing happens, basically.
This is the Double Jeopardy movie plot, which I think you said you watched because you did your homework. I did not. I'm going to go off of memory.
Well, I'll say I remembered way more than I thought because I remember there's certain parts of the movie where I was repeating the words like while they were saying them, but I couldn't remember. I could remember 3 minutes ahead. I couldn't remember 10 minutes ahead. I was like, why do I know what's happening right now? But I can't remember how this ends. But yeah, I did watch it again and it was kind of cringy knowing that it's not real. I didn't like the acting as much, and Tommy Lee Jones is great. And I love Ashley Judd, but I was like, yeah, this is not good. It irritated me.
So the movie plot says I was acquitted, so now I can confess and walk away. But the real law? Not even close.
So let's start with the foundation case. Fong versus United States, 1962. The judge directed an acquittal halfway through the government's evidence, and the Supreme Court said that even if the judge was wrong, the true acquittal was final.
But here's what Hollywood leaves out. You can still face a civil suit, federal charges under the dual sovereignty doctrine that we talked about in the first episode, or different criminal charges if they're not the same events. Under Blockburger versus United States, 1932, you can be charged again.
Yeah, Blockburger says, I always think I'm saying that wrong. Nope, I was trying to. Blockburger says two crimes are different if each requires proof of something the other doesn't. So even after acquittal, prosecutors may still have options.
So here's a question for you. Why does Hollywood cling to the idea that a confession after acquittal is a free pass? And what does that say about how we romanticize loopholes?
Oh, no, and why is it acceptable to romanticize and make fictional out of anything? I mean, I will watch movies about little people bringing rings to a goblet of fire, and I'm totally fine watching those. I was a huge Game of Thrones nerd. This pisses me off. Like I wanted this to be real. I'm very sad it's not. It completely changed this movie for me. And what a cool loophole, though. Wouldn't it be cool if that was real? Is there any way it's real?
Only if he was still living in the same state.
So I was going to ask if Washington, because that's where she was in Washington when it happened. I guess we'll call this 20-year spoiler. The movie's so old. But she gets charged and convicted and serves time for killing her husband in Washington. When she gets out, he's alive. He ran off with the babysitter. She finds him in Louisiana. Long story short, ends up killing him there. So she could be charged in Louisiana now based on what we know, is not true in the movie. But in the movie, they're like, double jeopardy. She said, I could shoot you in the middle of Mardi Gras and there's nothing anyone could do about it. Not true. There's a lot of plot holes in that movie. They would be able to charge her federally for crossing state lines. She was on parole in Washington. She jumps parole, steals a car, has a gun, like all these things you cannot do as a convicted felon. I was so pissed. I was like, felony, 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 watching her go through the whole movie, running people over. So there was a lot of things in there that I was like, charge 1, charge 2, charge 3, charge 4, charge 5. So yeah, I'm too much of a nerd to watch that movie again. What do you think? Got me irritated.
I set you off in the first 5 minutes of our podcast. That's a new record.
It is a record. But what do you think? Like, why is it okay? I don't know.
Well, I think like watching TV and movies before I really got into things and understood them better, I was like, oh, well, yeah, you can't do that twice, or yep, you can't do that, or you can do that. And now I'm finding out that for the sake of a 1-hour TV show or a 2-hour movie, they have to. I mean, it is fictional. They do say it's fictional, so I guess we shouldn't be taking legal advice from Hollywood. Is what I'm getting from this.
Well, and I guess like doctors probably feel that way when they watch House or something. You know, I'm sure. And I'm not that I'm a lawyer or anything by any means, but as a ridiculous juror watcher, that really irritated me because I was like, you can't have a gun as a felon. Like, everybody knows that.
You're so funny on this. Wow, I got you riled up. So let's go on to myth number 2. Double jeopardy means you can never be tried twice.
Yeah, this one sounds right until you look at the details. Double jeopardy means you can't be tried twice by the same sovereign. This was one of those rabbit holes you've sent me down because I was like, okay, well, what about when I didn't go deep into other countries, but Canada only has one sovereign. Here, each state has their own right to law, and we have federal. But in Canada, there's only one. They have one lawmaker, which was really neat because I guess I never really understood dual sovereignty. It's one of those things that's just all I knew because I've only ever lived here. But when you look outside and see that some places only have that single sovereign, double jeopardy will definitely work over there. Couldn't work over here. Maybe. I don't know. I guess it could work over there.
Hold on. I'm looking up because now I'm curious if Canada even has double jeopardy.
I think that my understanding was they do because the same sovereign can't charge you again for the crime you just got acquitted for because there's not another sovereign that can charge you for it.
Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 11H, says if you are finally acquitted, you cannot be tried again for the same offense. If you are finally convicted and punished, you cannot be tried or punished again for the same offense.
So double jeopardy works there because they only have the one sovereign. Is that what you collect too? Okay,
that's
good.
what I get. Yeah. So that one, when you started mentioning Canada, I'm like, do they have double jeopardy? Does every place have double jeopardy? I'm sure there's some countries that don't, but so back to our myth number 2. But you can be tried by 2 different sovereigns. So Heath versus Alabama in 1985, 2 states prosecuted the same man for the same conduct, and the Supreme Court said that was fine.
And then there's Gamble versus United States. We talked about this in the first one. Alabama prosecuted him for having a gun. Then the federal government prosecuted for having a gun. He was a felon, was pulled over and had a gun in his car. So Alabama prosecuted him for it, and then the federal government prosecuted him. He actually just pled guilty to the second one because he didn't want to go through trial again. He'd already done it with Alabama. So he was like, okay, just give me more time.
But Hollywood loves this one and done version. It's cleaner. It's dramatic. It gives the protagonist some swagger.
Yeah. So here's a thought-provoking question. Maybe I could rile you up. Does the Hollywood version make people overestimate their rights or underestimate how much power the government actually has?
Oh, good question. I think probably both. Because I think if you're taking legal advice from Hollywood, that's probably not the way to go.
I feel I'd overestimate my power more than realize. Like, yeah, I definitely wouldn't think the government had as much, but I would think in this scenario, I have more power than you because you've already.
Because I think everyone thinks it's like Canada, where there's one law across the whole country.
It's a very good way to put it. Yeah.
But you got each state, then you have federal. So there's lots out there. So yeah, I think before I really started digging in, I probably overestimated my rights and probably thought, yeah, you can't touch me. Not that I've committed any crimes, but Like, if I did, I mean, yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, like I said, the reason we are even doing these 2 episodes is because I watched an episode of Quincy where they did this. At the end, the guy's arrested and he says, after being acquitted for his trial, he gets arrested at the airport 'cause he's about to go somewhere. And he's like, you can't do this. It's double jeopardy. And they were like, we can because part of the crime was committed on federal land. And I was like, stop the bus. And then I
Yes.
frantically started Googling, and I think I started texting you whatever hour I finished this, and was like, holy, like, it was just crazy.
We need to glamorize Quincy because good on them for doing it the right way.
We got that. Mark just interjected 2 different sovereigns.
Well, so at the end of like, this isn't a super long pause, but at the end of the last one where I'm like, let's get Mark. Like, I'm like, please get him on. That's exactly why. He can sit there and act like he doesn't care. He cares. I want to hear his thoughts. Can you imagine how fun that? I'm not gonna
I've already told
fangirl
him.
out over that again, but I would really love for Mark to come on. Okay, myth number 3. I feel like maybe I'm too low nerdy now, but okay. Myth number 3, I don't know if I ever bought this one or not, but if a jury hangs, I'm free.
Yeah, hung jury's not an acquittal, it's a mistrial.
Yeah, and a mistrial can be retried if there's manifest necessity. This standard comes from United States versus Perez from 1824. That's not even recent. We're not even close to recent there.
It's like 200 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. But TV crime shows love to treat a hung jury as the dramatic escape. Cue the music, cue the relieved defendant, and cue the prosecutor scowling.
Yeah, in reality, it just means round 2. And I will tell you, I think it's like relief and not, because it's like, okay, we get to try again. But I think like most of the second trial typically doesn't go as well as the first one, because now you change everything up. Like most of the time in a retrial, people get guilty because the second time,
because the prosecutors had like a test run. Basically,
right, now they know
this
what
worked, this didn't
thinking.
work. Okay, so with that, why do shows treat mistrials like endings when they're just really intermissions? Other than they only have 60 minutes, we got to wrap up the story, it can't continue to the next week, like all those things.
But I'm trying to think of one that glamorized a mistrial. A mistrial, not an acquittal. Like when we all know if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Like, and that's not a Hollywood theme, but it was pretty Hollywood. I can't think of a movie where a mistrial was glamorized. Do you know of any that glamorized a mistrial?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I feel like obviously it happens. I mean,
yeah. Maybe this is a
I'm
myth.
trying to think of like if there's a SVU, I'm sure there's one that ended in a mistrial.
Mm-hmm.
Where we
I'm
got
sure.
the relieved defendant and the scowling prosecutor.
And I would feel as the defendant, really, if I got a mistrial, I'd probably be really upset. And every time people file for a mistrial, like in the Corey Richins trial right now, they have twice asked for a mistrial. And I'm like, if I were her, I'd be like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to sit. It took 3 years. 2 or 3 years to get her trial. Why would you want a mistrial? Like, yeah, of course, if it really is grounds for a mistrial, but I would not want to have to stay in jail longer if I was innocent. I would want out. So, I don't know. Mistrials are a fishy one. I would not want one.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, once and done, please. I'm hopefully I'm never in that situation. So,
you're too innocent of a soul. You're too pure for the rest of us, Rachel. You won't be on that. But I will definitely come and testify for you if that happens. I'll be like, I'm sorry, sir. She's too pure for this world. Like, she's definitely innocent.
So myth number 4, the prosecution can't appeal a bad ruling.
Yeah, they can't appeal an acquittal. That part is true. The Supreme Court made that clear in United States versus Martin Linen Supply Company in 1977.
But prosecutors can appeal pretrial suppression orders, dismissals not based on innocence, and legal rulings made before jeopardy attaches.
And jeopardy attaches when the trial actually begins. That's from Serfass. It's either Serfass or Serfass versus United States, 1975.
But again, Hollywood loves the rogue judge shuts down the case and the prosecutor is helpless trope.
So here's the question then. Does the trope make the justice system look more fragile or more dramatic than it actually is?
I'm going to go with more dramatic because I feel like
Yeah.
now that we get to see a lot more court cases, like the trials,
Bingo, yeah.
I think Hollywood makes them more dramatic, but it also makes the justice system look dramatic. But now that we watch a lot of all right, you watch a lot of trials. I get the
Cameras in
updates
courtroom.
from you.
Cameras in the courtroom are something a lot of judges really stand by it. They're like, I have nothing to hide kind of thing, and now they're releasing all of the sidebars from Karen Reed's first trial, and they should have never been suppressed. After the case is done, any sidebar is just as public record as anything else, and it took all this time to get the first trial's sidebars, and they are messy. I mean, it is very messy, and in my mind, like, what's being suppressed in the beginning, and that's the hard part about watching pretrial motions and things, is because I don't come in with a presumption of innocence. If I've already heard everything they're keeping out, I know too much. So makes me a bad juror actually on the ones I watch live, because I can't presume them innocent once I know I've already seen them lay everything out. Well, not everything, but most. So then when I watch, it's even better when they flip me, which is like in Karen Reed. I was so flipped after that. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely more dramatic than making the justice system look fragile. So myth 5, if charges are dismissed, that's the same as an acquittal.
No.
No.
Dismissals and acquittals are not the same thing.
Yeah. The key case here is United States versus Scott in 1978. Scott's case was dismissed mid-trial for a procedural issue, not because the judge found him innocent. Newest, most recent one of those is Baldwin. His was right in the middle. The Supreme Court said that kind of dismissal doesn't trigger sorry. The Supreme Court said that kind of dismissal doesn't trigger double jeopardy.
But again, TV loves to blur this line. A judge says, case dismissed, and the defendant walks out like they've been vindicated. But in reality, they probably haven't been.
No, and it's called with or without prejudice. Are we calling it an acquittal with prejudice or without prejudice? Because that means charges can't be brought again, or charges can be. Now, it doesn't mean they can't get civil suit or they can't get a different sovereign or whatever, but with or without prejudice makes all the difference there. So here's the question. How much confusion comes from the fact that legal language sounds final even when it isn't?
Well, yeah, you just mentioned that with or without prejudice, and I was like, wait, which one is it? That means that they can't try you again.
It's so funny. I said it with such confidence, and I'm not even sure, because I think it's without prejudice is, man, I don't know. I have to look it up, but I don't know how to use a MacBook. How do I zoom out?
Oh, this says, okay, a mistrial with prejudice is when the judge finds that a retrial would violate the defendant's rights, usually because prosecutional misconduct was intentional. The retrial would violate fundamental fairness, or the mistrial was declared without manifest necessity.
Yeah, so that was when the judge threw out that case against Alec Baldwin for Helena Hutchins. I don't know if you remember that, but it was on the set of Rust. I watched a lot of pretrial for that one too. I mean, I didn't think he did anything with malice, but when you hear that he had been very careless and wasn't following the rules, they were like, never put your finger on the actual, treat it like a real gun, even though it's a set gun. He had been told many times how to handle that gun. And he was, acting like Wyatt Earp on the site, basically, and on the set. And what happened was they found out that the prosecutor had been basically, some of the evidence hadn't been filed correctly, had been withheld, and it was what could be considered exonerating. And so when the judge found out, it was very weird, because they had already attached a jury to him, but trial had not begun yet, which was even crazier because the jury wasn't even. But then you've got the prosecutor on the stand, and that was one of the wildest things I'd ever been. I've never seen anything like that. And it was like this and over. I'm sure Helena's family was just heartbroken. I'm sure he's still going through civil suits for that and stuff. But yeah, that is definitely one of the cases that I was like, did this just happen? My gosh, that's crazy. So
Yeah. And some legal terms just sound final, but they're not. You know what I mean? Like you hear
Mhm.
them and they're like, oh, that's the end. And it's like, oh, no, that's not the end. There can be more.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think it makes it difficult when there's, it's legally written and it's just,
Yes.
sometimes it's just hard to understand. Yeah. So myth number 6, if the judge messes up, I can't be retried.
Yeah, if the judge enters a true acquittal, even by mistake, it's final. That's Fong Fu again.
But if the judge dismisses the case for reasons unrelated to guilt or innocence, like a procedural defect, retrial is allowed. And that's Scott again.
So Hollywood loves that the judge makes a mistake and the defendant walks free forever storyline, clearly.
I was I was like, this one just seems like the next logical one we would have to talk about. So should
Finality, I think.
that doesn't sound right either.
It doesn't. No, we're both like a dog, like turning our heads.
All right, we'll go with finality. All right, should finality outweigh accuracy, or does that trade-off create more injustice than it prevents?
I would rather accuracy. I mean, it's almost like we were talking about, like, do we need to know why? I feel like I need to know the accuracy of it or I don't understand. I don't really care about the end result. I care more about the why. What do you think?
I think, by the definition of the law, it's the finality.
Well, yeah, I guess so. If you're the, I guess if you're the defendant in the case, I guess it really does. Who cares why? I'm out of here. Yeah, fair.
versus the accuracy, because they've proven, they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that person's guilty, even if they are.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess it depends on what side of the fence you're on there.
I mean, that's like
It
the
definitely depends
O.J.
who you are.
Simpson.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like O.J. Simpson, everyone thought one way, and then,
It
he's
feels like
found
a
not
big.
guilty.
This feels like some sort of psychological test for me because I'm thinking like a victim. Like I'm not thinking like I was OJ, and I don't care how it happened. I'm out. But I'm sure her family, Nicole's family, was like, "What the hell just happened? How did that happen? How? Wait, ugh, makes me so. I'm getting too heated." We need to do this at a different time. I don't know when the best time to get me frustrated is, but it's I'm going to talk your ear off about it. It aggravates me.
So let's just you're so funny.
It's so why does this like I never knew that in my mid 40s I was going to get pissed off about the law like this. It's just not. If you'd have told me this in my 20s, I'd have been like, I will never be that nerdy. Yes, I am. Signing up.
I will not like law that much. Yeah. So let's talk about Hollywood's biggest double jeopardy sins.
Yeah, the elephant in the room. Hollywood gets double jeopardy wrong because the real doctrine is honestly kind of nerdy. Just stay on theme here.
And it's complicated, it's technical, it's full of exceptions, and none of that fits nicely into a 90-minute thriller. But it does fit nicely into true stories about law cases, so you still have to go watch that other movie.
Oh, yeah, that's Just Mercy, right?
Yes. Yep, you have to go watch that one.
Jafar's sitting on my movie list, so yeah, I mean, Hollywood just decides to simplify it. You can't be tried twice, period. And that how nice, that is nice. And I guess if we just remember it's just Hollywood, then let's try to enjoy it. But it's just wrong. It's wrong. It's just wrong.
When we watch TV shows and movies in this house, if we see something that seems like the door just happens to be, or there's no traffic in New York City, it's like we say here, well, that's how the script was written, so that we don't get too hung up on things.
I'd rather just watch fantasy if it's going to be about the law at this point, I think I'm making that decision right now because I can absolutely buy that is a flying horse. I cannot buy that she went to Louisiana and didn't get tried again. I mean, literally, like, while they're putting his body in a bag, the guy's like, well, technically, ma'am, you're still married, so I guess you just inherited a hotel. And she goes, I don't want it. I just want my son. And I'm like, ugh, they would not do that. They would still arrest you until they could get through the red tape of it. The prosecutor can just say, look, we're not trying this case. She's already been
I guess
that
brings up the next question. If she can prove he's alive, then her conviction shouldn't be there, right?
Right. Yeah, expunged. But then now she killed him. So what's more important at that point? Like, do we want to get her on something? So we're going to go ahead and try her in Louisiana, or are we going to be like, well, I mean, She
Well, 'cause
already
wouldn't
spent all
he
these years in jail. I mean,
right,
she spent 6 years in jail.
but then wouldn't he be tried for faking a death?
He would
Coming
have
up
if
with a
she
new
hadn't killed him.
coming up with a new identity.
I
I mean,
feel
there's
like
a
it.
lot that and they were still married, and then he gets remarried.
Yeah, he
So,
changed his
there's
name and all this other
there's a
stuff.
lot there's a lot going on with that one.
That the plot hole
So
in that one is
yeah,
gaping, but we didn't know that
now
at the time,
now we realize it.
retrospectively.
So we have, Hollywood simplifies it. You can't be tried twice, period, which is wrong. But what's worse, if you're acquitted, you can now commit the crime for real, which is also wrong.
Yeah. Also, nope.
Yeah.
And then there's the evil prosecutor trope. The idea that the government is constantly trying to retry people illegally, and defense attorneys have to shout double jeopardy and hit the table, and it's some kind of magic spell that just releases everyone. It's just not like that. And I mean, I don't know that I do think there are vindictive prosecutors that are just like, I'm coming to get you. It's personal now. I think that happens. I mean, I definitely know that happens. We just saw it in Reed. The DA just was like, I'm going to keep going for her. Let's keep going. And in the end, it was a really expensive DUI, basically.
All right, here's your final question. When Hollywood distorts legal rights, does it misinform the public or does it reveal what people wish the law actually said?
Okay. Woo, woo, right back to what I just said. Like, I do wish it said that. I really do. I mean, it does misinform. It does both, I feel. It misinforms the public. It distorts what we think is legally right. It makes us think two things. The law's looking out for us when I don't think that's necessarily true. I think they try. I think law is messy. I think that the core of what our laws were and everything that we built them around, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect system. And like we mentioned in the last one, the law doesn't correct itself quickly. I mean, it was back when we were talking about Norfolk. When they make a mistake, the law isn't built to fix their own mistakes easily. It takes a long time between appeals and getting a mistrial. And just to go to trial is hard because can we bring this in? Do we talk about their financial crimes? Or will that distort what the jury thinks of them? Is that something that causes unfair prejudice? I mean, it's just not clean. It's not clean. And it's not clean because it's built to try to protect you. So I just feel like it's all those things. Like it just distorts everything. And it makes us wish that the law did work the way that we think it does.
I think it does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think
But
that's what it is for me. I think that's, they're trying to make it simple. Obviously, it's a movie. They only have
yeah,
2 hours. We can't get into all this stuff. I mean, we're
yeah.
spending, what, 30, 60 minutes just talking about I mean, that would be half the movie would be over just discussing these different options. So before
I
we
just
wrap
see a
up,
little talking head pop up and be
right.
like, actually, this is not how it works. This movie's stupid.
I watch movies so differently now, so I gotta not watch movies. Yeah, so I tend to stay in the fantasy superhero
Yeah,
realm
Disney,
because yeah,
superheroes, those are great because it's like, okay, let's just come out and say it. This isn't real. And that's why I like
right.
documentaries, I think, because documentaries, that's how it happened.
That's how it happened.
Just give me
But
real or give me fake. Don't give me in between.
in between, yeah.
Loosely based on reality is not my gig. No.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about the myths, and we did do the episode on Double Jeopardy, but let's just remind everybody about how it actually does protect you.
Yeah. First, once a jury returns a not guilty verdict, that's it. The government can't appeal it. And again, that's Martin Lennon that we talked about earlier.
And second, if the judge enters a true acquittal, even if it's legally wrong, it's final. And that's Fong Fu.
So lastly, if the government tries to manipulate a mistrial to get a second chance, courts can shut that down.
Why did I not know that?
Yeah. I had to read that a couple times. I mean,
wait, what?
well, because that's where you
Interesting.
got to have a good judge. I mean, and most judges are great. I mean, and a lot of times it's because they're publicly appointed judges, so most of the time they are going to step in. So kind of thinking through that, yeah, a good judge is who's not leaning one way or the other is going to make sure that doesn't happen. But when you have a judge that's like, I want to watch the circus, then yeah. So I think that's why it says can shut it down, because doesn't mean they will.
Right.
So I guess we can kind of wrap up that Double Jeopardy is powerful, but it's not a blanket statement, blanket, shield, pop culture makes it out to be.
And understanding the nuances is the difference between legal reality and Hollywood fantasy.
Don't forget to go check out our first episode where we got into Double Jeopardy in the first place.
And so the next time you're watching a courtroom thriller or a movie, TV show, whatever it is, you'll catch the moment where the script takes a hard turn away from reality.
Yeah, Google's your best
You're
friend
welcome.
these days. Yeah, definitely. So thanks for listening. Till next time.
Bye, coworkers. I don't know why I always wave.
That wraps up this week's episode.
Thanks for listening, whether you're at your office, at your home, or somewhere in between. We're glad you're here.
Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Like what you heard? Leave us a review and share it with your coworkers.
Got a case you want us to cover or office drama that feels criminal? Send it to us at coworkers.crimepodcast@gmail.com or check the episode notes for all of our social handles. Until next time, coworkers.
Stay curious, stay safe, and stay caffeinated.